Tiana Harris had never believed in fate until the day she noticed a photograph of her late mother inside a billionaire CEO's wallet. She was just a waitress trying to make ends meet in New York City, balancing 2 jobs and caring for her younger brother. 1 minute she was refilling a glass of water at the sprawling penthouse restaurant of the Waldorf Astoria. The next, her entire universe tilted. Why was her mother's familiar face tucked beside this powerful stranger's credit cards? In that instant, a torrent of questions flooded her mind. Little did she know the answers would unravel secrets darker than she ever imagined. Tiana Harris stood in the rain-slicked alley behind Rosie's diner, her second job clutching a damp paycheck. It was a cold, grey Thursday, and the steady hum of traffic from East 125th Street in Harlem mingled with the swirl of her own anxious thoughts. She'd just finished a double shift at Rosie's, having run herself ragged since dawn, and now she had to rush back across town to start her evening shift at the illustrious Skyline Lounge inside the Waldorf Astoria. She was exhausted, her feet burning in old sneakers. But exhaustion had become her normal state. Since her mother's death, 4 years ago, Tiana had juggled every odd job she could find, waitressing, cleaning office buildings at midnight, tutoring neighborhood kids. Her mother, Patrice Harris, had raised Tiana and her younger brother, Devin, alone, instilling in them a fierce determination to keep going, even when the world turned its back. She'd always said, "Baby girl, if the world won't open a door for you, you kick it down nicely, but firmly." As Tiana peered at her meager check in the alleyway, she remembered those words. The paycheck wasn't nearly enough to cover rent, groceries, and Devin's college application fees, but she stuffed it into her worn-out purse. "At least it's something," she muttered. The afternoon drizzle coated her hair in droplets, and she tugged the hood of her jacket tighter before stepping out to hail the first passing taxi. Tiana arrived at the Waldorf Astoria an hour later, ducking through the grand lobby with quick, apologetic steps. She was late again. Traffic, an overrun shift, and a broken bus schedule were her perpetual foes. The Skyline Lounge on the hotel's top floor was a far cry from Rosie's diner. Rosie's was old linoleum floors, flickering neon lights, and the constant smell of frying bacon. The Skyline Lounge dripped with opulence, glass chandeliers that glimmered like stardust velvet chairs arranged around marble tables, and panoramic floor-to-ceiling windows, showcasing the glittering Manhattan skyline. In her black waitress uniform, Tiana blended seamlessly into the staff, scurrying about, polished, poised, and professional. She grabbed a tray from behind the bar, forced a smile onto her lips, and steeled herself for another night of high-stakes service. Guests here ranged from visiting celebrities to CEOs, brokering million-dollar deals over caviar and champagne. Table 12. Tiana, her manager, barked, a stern woman named Clarice, whose meticulously done hair and pinched expression suggested she had no patience for tardiness. "They've been waiting 5 minutes." She nodded, smoothing down her apron. On it, gently pushing her exhaustion aside, Tiana approached table 12 with her best courtesy. The guests were a pair of business-suited men engaged in quiet conversation. One was older, with silver hair combed back, a regal posture, and an unmistakable aura of power. The other was younger, perhaps late 20s, with a nervous energy that suggested a subordinate role. "Good evening, gentlemen," she said with a graceful bow. "Welcome to the Skyline Lounge. My name is Tiana, and I'll be serving you tonight." The older man glanced at her name tag. "Tiana," he repeated, voice cultured, measured. "A lovely name." She handed them menus. "Can I start you off with something to drink?" The older man flicked his gaze toward the wine list. A bottle of your finest Cabernet Sauvignon. He passed the wine list back to her. Make it from Chateau Montelena. His voice carried the expectation that no request was too large, no price too high. Her eyebrows rose slightly. Chateau Montelena was famous and pricey. She'd once studied about it in a wine course offered free to employees. Still, she kept her composure. Excellent choice, sir. He inclined his head, thank you. Then, extending his hand, he added, My name is Winston Harrington. I suppose you might have heard of Harrington Global. Tiana felt her breath hitch. Everyone in New York had heard of Harrington Global, a multi-billion-dollar corporation known for real estate technology and, more recently, philanthropic endeavors. Winston Harrington was regularly featured in Forbes and the New York Times. Rumor was he'd grown up in poverty somewhere in the South, only to claw his way to the top with ruthless ambition. Nice to meet you, Mr. Harrington, she said politely. I'll bring your wine right away. He nodded, polite, yet somewhat dismissive. Tiana hurried to the bar, placing the order for the expensive wine, while her heart pounded. Serving Winston. Harrington felt surreal, like she was brushing up against the pages of a celebrity magazine, but she had a job to do, so she quickly composed herself, retrieving the chilled bottle from the wine cellar. Back at the table, she uncorked the wine, poured a sample for Mr. Harrington, and stood silently as he tasted it. He offered a crisp nod, so she poured for both men, continuing her well-rehearsed performance. Moments later, she whisked away to bring breadwater and a sense of calm professionalism. It was another night in the gilded cage of the Skyline Lounge, until she saw the photograph that would change her life shortly after she served the wine. Winston's phone buzzed. He pulled out his wallet to check a business card tucked inside, rummaging for something likely a VIP black credit card. He flicked it between his fingers while his younger companion rattled on about quarterly reports and potential acquisitions in Tokyo. Tiana floated by, refilling water glasses, keenly aware of every subtle shift. She was so adept at her job, she barely needed to pay attention to the weight of the pitcher in her hand. Her mind automatically kept her steps controlled, graceful, never splashing a drop. But then she noticed Winston adjusting a small photo inside his open wallet, which lay just at the edge of the table. It was half hidden by a stack of business cards, yet Tiana caught sight of a woman's face, strong cheekbones, brown skin glowing with quiet confidence, dark curly hair parted in a style reminiscent of the 90s. Tiana nearly dropped the water pitcher. Her pulse surged. She recognized that face. It was her mother, Patrice. She froze water, sloshing dangerously in the pitcher, her mind spinning as she remembered rummaging through old shoe boxes of family photographs. She remembered her mother's radiant smile, the way her laughter echoed the small gap between her front teeth. Tiana blinked, forcing her eyes away from the wallet. Perhaps she was imagining things. She could not be certain, but everything in her gut told her otherwise. Winston Harrington, one of the most powerful men in America, had a picture of Patrice Harris, a working-class single mother from Harlem who had passed away from cancer 4 years ago, in his wallet. Why, how heart pounding. Tiana took a steadying breath and carefully refilled Mr. Harrington's water glass. She finished her round at the table without letting the panic show on her face, then retreated to the kitchen, heart hammering against her ribs. In the bustling kitchen, Tiana leaned against a counter, pressing her trembling hands to her forehead. She could barely breathe. She ran through possibilities in her mind, none of which made sense. Maybe it was someone who merely looked like her mother. Could Patrice have known Winston? Was there a deeper secret her mother never told her? Tiana's manager, Clarice, popped her head. In table 12 would like to place their dinner orders. She barked, "Hurry up!" Tiana forced herself to move. She inhaled through her nose, exhaled through her mouth, and stepped back onto the dining floor. Her job demanded a calm facade. With forced composure, she returned to the table to take their orders. Both men ordered prime rib with seasonal vegetables. Tiana scribbled the requests down, desperately, trying to keep her hand from shaking. As she finished, Winston Harrington's phone rang. He answered in a clipped tone. "Yes, Sabrina," and waved Tiana away. She had to quell the urge to ask him right then and there, "So why do you have my mother's picture in your wallet?" But that was impossible in front of his colleague. Also, how would he respond? Would he laugh in her face, or maybe call hotel security to escort her out? This was not a man accustomed to being questioned by a waitress. She retreated once more to the kitchen, almost stumbling. "Calm down," she whispered to herself. She pressed her palms flat on the steel countertop. Tiana decided that she had to confront him. Maybe when he signed the check, or was momentarily alone. For the next 20 minutes, she tried to focus on other tables, but her mind swirled with questions. She delivered their prime rib, topped with the chef's special herb butter, and stepped away, noticing Winston occasionally glancing at her with curious eyes. She was still trembling when she approached with the dessert menu. Winston's companion excused himself, presumably to the restroom, leaving Winston briefly alone. Summoning her courage, Tiana set the dessert menu gently on the table in front of him. He looked up that sharp gaze, taking her in. "Thank you," he said, "but I believe we'll pass on dessert." Tiana licked her lips, each heartbeat thundering in her ears. "Mr. Harrington," she began softly. She glanced around, making sure no one was nearby. "I couldn't help but notice something in your wallet." A photograph of a woman. His brow furrowed. "Yes." And she took a shaky breath. "It's my mother, Patrice Harris." For a split second, Winston's entire demeanor changed, like a mask slipping to reveal shock, then quickly replaced by a stern, guarded expression. He snapped his wallet shut and tucked it into his jacket pocket. "I'm sorry, you must be mistaken." Tiana's chest tightened. "I'm not mistaken, sir." I recognized her face immediately. He stiffened, jaw set. "I don't know what you think you saw, but you're being intrusive. That photo is of an old friend. Now, if you'll excuse me." Tiana's eyes filled with anger and confusion. "Sir, that woman is my mother. She passed away 4 years ago. I need to know." "How did you know her?" Winston stared at her, tension rippling across his expression. She could see the denial, the defensiveness in his eyes. "I suggest you mind your own business," he said, voice low, controlled like a lion quietly warning an intruder. "I have no idea who you are." Her throat felt raw. She wanted to scream, to demand answers. But the moment was cut short as Winston's younger companion returned. Winston rose, tossing a few $100 bills onto the table to cover the check. "Keep the change," he told Tiana brusquely, and then he swept out of the restaurant with the younger man trailing, leaving her with her heart in her throat and tears stinging her eyes. Tiana's shift passed in a haze after seeing her mother's photo in Winston Harrington's wallet. Back home in their tiny apartment, she found her brother Devin buried in textbooks. He immediately sensed something was off. "You okay?" he asked. "Just tired," she replied, avoiding the truth for now. They studied together for a while, but Tiana's mind stayed locked on the photo. After Devin went to bed, she stared at their mother's picture on the mantel. The memory of Patrice, strong, joyful, full of wisdom, clashed with the mystery of Winston's connection. Why had her mother never mentioned him? And why did Winston deny knowing her sleep didn't come easily? Questions echoed in Tiana's mind all night, One thing was certain: the man who claimed ignorance was hiding something, and Tiana was determined to find out what. 2 days later, Tiana was again at the Skyline Lounge when Winston Harrington reappeared, this time alone. The moment she saw him sweeping into the restaurant, she tensed. He seemed unstoppable, gliding across the polished floors with quiet confidence. Her manager Clarice approached Tiana face tight with apprehension. "The gentleman at table 7 has requested you specifically. Don't disappoint." Tiana's heart pounded as she made her way to table 7. Winston Harrington sat there, posture straight, eyes pinned on her. She forced a polite smile, although her pulse hammered. "Good evening, Mr. Harrington," she said, voice shaking, despite her effort to steady it. "I'll be your waitress again." He inclined his head, silent for a moment, studying her. "Is there a place we can talk privately?" His tone was low-measured, not exactly friendly, but not as cold as before. A flicker of hope and anxiety raced through her. "We have a side lounge that's empty this time of day." She gestured toward a smaller room, with plush seating, often used for private events. "Lead the way," he said, standing up. Tiana cast a nervous glance around. Clarice watched them, but said nothing. In the side lounge, the lights were dim, and the windows offered a sweeping view of Midtown, from the Chrysler Building to the glimmering Empire State Building. She turned to face Winston, crossing her arms as if to shield herself. He cleared his throat. "I owe you an apology. The other day I was dismissive." He paused. "You caught me off guard." Tiana swallowed. "You said you didn't know my mother, Patrice Harris," Winston said, lingering on the name. Something like sorrow flickered across his features. "I did know her a long time ago." He gestured for Tiana to sit, but she remained, standing, her spine rigid. She was an important part of my life during my college years. We attended a summer program together at Howard University before I transferred to Columbia. She was brilliant, passionate. We dated for a while. Tiana felt like the ground shifted beneath her. Her mother had never mentioned any Winston. She took a step closer, her voice tight. "Then why do you have her photograph, and why did you deny it was her?" He exhaled slowly, pinching the bridge of his nose. "Your mother and I had a complicated history. There was an argument. Let's say I made a promise to never contact her again. But I couldn't let go. I kept her photo, and in weak moments, I'd look at it and remember what could have been." Tiana's head spun. Why would she never mention you? She never talked about any billionaire ex-boyfriend. Did you leave her? Hurt her? Winston's face hardened at the accusation. "It's complicated, Tiana. We were both young and ambitious. I let certain influences, my father's disapproval, my own insecurities, drive a wedge between us. I heard she went back to Harlem, pregnant." And Tiana nearly choked. Pregnant, she could hardly breathe as the possibility hung in the air. You saying I might be?" He held up a hand. "I'm not jumping to conclusions, but I've wondered all these years if that child was mine." Her voice shook. "You're telling me this now? My mother died 4 years ago. I never had a father, and Devin never had a father. You're implying that either of us could be your child, or both." Winston's expression was etched with regret. "I'm sorry for the shock, Tiana, but I was never certain. Patrice never contacted me to say that she'd had my child, and by the time I found the courage to approach her again, she had her life and I had mine." A storm of emotion raged in Tiana's chest. Anger, confusion, betrayal. Had her mother kept Winston's identity secret? Or was Winston painting a story to cover up something darker? She forced herself to keep her voice low. My mother never spoke of you, not once. He nodded grimly. I know that must be hard to believe, but if there's a chance, if you're my daughter or your brother is my son, I need to know. He paused. Let me help you. Let me pay for a paternity test. Her mouth fell open in shock. The idea of letting Winston Harrington, a man she barely knew yet, who might share her DNA waltz into their lives, was jarring. But the question gnawed at her. Could he really be my father? She stared at him, anger and a sliver of hope warring within her. Why now? Why, after all these years, Winston's expression softened. Because seeing you, hearing your voice, it's like Patrice is standing in front of me again. I can't run from the truth anymore. If there's any chance you're my child, I want to do right by you. I owe that to Patrice's memory. Tiana felt tears sting her eyes. My mother would have told us right. She wouldn't keep a father from us if he was decent. Unless... Maybe you weren't decent. She glared at him, pain etched in her features. Or unless you hurt her more than you're letting on. Winston's face flickered with torment. I made mistakes. But I loved Patrice in my own way. She was the only woman who ever made me feel that I could be more than the son of a disapproving father, if I truly am your father. Tiana, He paused, collecting himself. I want to support you. I want to support Devin. I want to make amends. Tiana's thoughts scrambled. This was too much to process. I need time, she whispered, turning on her heel and rushing out before he could say another word. That night, Tiana locked herself in her bedroom, tears sliding down her cheeks, while Devin knocked anxiously at her door. She eventually let him in. When she told him everything, his face went pale. So you're saying Winston Harrington, the Winston Harrington might be our dad? Devin asked, voice shaking. This is unreal. Tiana nodded. I don't know what to believe, Dev. But I do know one thing. Mom never mentioned him. Not even once. Devin sank onto her bed. What if she was protecting us? Maybe he was dangerous, or she didn't trust him. He looked up, eyes shining with unspent tears. But what if he's telling the truth, and he could help us? Imagine how different our lives could be. College medical bills, everything. Tiana felt torn. She had a protective instinct to shield Devin from heartbreak, but the questions clawed at her. She decided to track down anyone who might know about her mother's past at Howard University. Perhaps her mother's old best friend, Auntie Renee, who still lived in D.C., had some insight. Before dawn the next day, Tiana and Devin boarded a Greyhound bus to Washington, D.C. They carried with them old photos of their mother, determined to unearth the truth from the fragments of her past. Renee Matthews welcomed them into her cozy suburban home with open arms. She had known Patrice during their college days at Howard, then again later, when Patrice was a single mother, struggling in Harlem. She gave the siblings a warm hug, eyes misty at the sight of Patrice's children. Sitting in Renee's living room, sipping sweet iced tea, Tiana explained the entire ordeal, finding the photograph in Winston Harrington's wallet, Winston's claim of a hidden romance, the possibility of fatherhood. Renee listened intently, her face reflecting a whirlwind of emotions. "Child, I never expected this day to come," she finally said, voice trembling. "But it doesn't surprise me Winston Harrington turned up again. Your mother had a big fight with him back in the day. He was from a wealthy lineage, but his father disapproved of Patrice because of her upbringing. And Patrice, your mother, well, she was fierce, proud." Tiana leaned forward, heart pounding. "So they were in love," Renee nodded. I think so. They were inseparable one summer at Howard. Winston was a scholarship kid, but he had big ambitions. Patrice was a bright light. She had dreams, too. Then Winston's father visited campus, said he wouldn't pay for Winston's tuition if Winston stayed with Patrice. They had a huge blowout argument. Winston changed, grew distant and colder. Patrice was devastated. She told me she never wanted to see him again after the things he said. Then, near the end of that summer, she found out she was pregnant. A hush fell over the room. Tiana clutched Devin's hand. Did Winston know? Renee's eyes brimmed with tears. I don't think so. Patrice refused to contact him. She said, if he doesn't want me, he doesn't get the child either. She was proud, and she didn't trust that Winston wouldn't break her heart again, or the child's. At that time, she wasn't 100% sure if Winston was the father, but it was highly likely Patrice had been with no one else for months. Tiana's breath caught. Then who is the father? Me, Devin. Both of us. Renee pursed her lips. Patrice said she wasn't sure if she'd conceived the child at the very end of that summer or not. It might have been just after she broke things off with Winston. Around the same time, there was a man named Bruce, a friend from the neighborhood, but Patrice said it was a one-time fling. She wasn't certain, but I always suspected Winston more than Bruce. Devin squeezed Tiana's hand. This is crazy, he murmured. We could be Winston Harrington's kids. Tears dribbled down Tiana's cheeks. Why? Why did Mom never say anything? Renee's voice softened. She was terrified. Winston's influence would overshadow her, especially if he learned about the pregnancy. She didn't trust him. She was worried about raising a family with a man whose father had threatened to ruin her life. She wanted to protect you, both from heartbreak and disappointment. Sobs racked Tiana's chest. She missed her mother fiercely. All those times she'd asked about her father, and her mother deflected. Now it made sense. The biggest puzzle piece of her life was finally falling into place. Renee leaned across the couch, placing a hand over Tiana's. Your mother loved you and Devin with all her heart. She never wanted you to feel unwanted. She wanted you to be strong on your own terms. Tiana swallowed, wiping her eyes. So Winston might really be telling the truth. Renee nodded, eyes flicking to Devin. Yes, baby, it's possible. 2 days later, Tiana returned to New York, her emotions at a boiling point. She called Winston Harrington from the number on the business card he had discreetly slipped her at the Skyline Lounge. Her voice trembled as she asked him to meet. He agreed immediately, inviting her to a quiet bar in Midtown owned by a friend of his after hours. When Tiana arrived, Winston stood near the empty bar. The lights low. He wore a simple black suit, no tie, looking more like a tired man than a billionaire mogul. His gaze softened as she approached. Thank you for coming, he said. Tiana took a stool, resting her forearms on the bar. I talked to my mother's friend, Renee. She told me about your relationship, your father's disapproval, the breakup. She swallowed. She said my mother was pregnant at the time. Winston closed his eyes, as though in pain. I suspected as much, but I was never sure. Silence stretched. Tiana cleared her throat. I want a paternity test, for me and for Devin. If one or both of us is your child, I want to know. Winston nodded gravely. I'll arrange it immediately. I have connections with a reputable lab. I promise it'll be discreet. Tiana shuddered, tears threatening again. She remembered her mother's struggles, working 2 or 3 jobs dealing with hospital bills, eventually succumbing to cancer without adequate insurance. The irony stung that maybe a wealthy father could have spared them so much pain. If you are our father, you should know we lost Mum to cancer. She suffered a lot, and so did we. His mouth tightened. He paused, his eyes glistening. If that's true, it's my fault for not being there to help. I can't change the past, Tiana, but I can change the future. Let me help. She shook her head vehemently. I don't need your pity. I just want the truth. Winston lowered his gaze. I understand. After taking the DNA tests, Tiana and Devon returned to their routine, but nothing felt normal. Tiana continued working shifts at Rosie's and the Skyline Lounge, but her focus drifted constantly to the looming results. What would it mean if Winston Harrington was her father? Could she accept help from the man her mother had never mentioned? Devon, too, was torn. Hope flickered at the thought of college funding, but it clashed with the fear of being left behind. The anxiety deepened when paparazzi began circling. Rumors had leaked. Tiana's photo was splashed across tabloids, speculated as either Winston's secret daughter or mistress. Reporters staked out her building. Privacy dissolved overnight. Calls came in from Devon's school. Strangers asked invasive questions. Tiana had hoped for quiet truth, but instead she was trapped in a media circus, and the real answer hadn't even arrived yet. 2 weeks later, the lab results arrived. Winston asked Tiana and Devon to meet him at his office on the top floor of Harrington Global's headquarters. Entering that sleek skyscraper felt like stepping into another dimension. Towering glass walls, lavish artwork, employees gliding through marble corridors. They took a private elevator to the executive floor, hearts pounding. Inside Winston's spacious office, adorned with modern art and floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked Central Park, he greeted them with quiet tension. A manila envelope lay on his massive ebony desk. Winston's voice quavered slightly. I just received these an hour ago. I wanted to open them with you here. Tiana's hands were clammy. She glanced at Devon, who nodded for her to proceed. Tiana took a shaky breath and tore open the envelope. Her eyes flicked over the lines of data, the final results spelled out in black and white. For Tiana, probability of paternity. 99%. For Devon, probability of paternity. 0%. She gasped, a swirl of emotions knocking the breath from her lungs. She was Winston's biological daughter. Devon was not. Her mind reeled why. How Devon gripped her shoulder. Are we reading that right? Tiana nodded, tears streaming. You're not Winston's child, I am. Winston lowered his head, a tremor passing through him. Tiana, my daughter. Then he turned to Devon. I'm so sorry. I know this must be difficult. Devon's face was stone heartbreak and confusion swirling beneath the surface. Does that mean we don't share the same father? Tiana grabbed his hand. We're still siblings no matter what. We were raised together. We share the same mother. That won't change. Devon's eyes rimmed red. But who's my father? A crushing silence filled the room. The test results offered no comfort for Devon. They only left a gaping hole. Tiana's heart broke for her brother. She understood how alone he must feel. Winston reached out tentatively, placing a hand on Devon's shoulder. I'll help you find out, whatever it takes. But Devon jerked away. I need some air. He bolted for the door, face twisted with emotion. Tiana went after him, but Winston stopped her gently. Let him have a moment. This is a lot. Tiana pressed a palm to her forehead. I can't believe this. I'm your daughter, and Devon. He's in the dark. Winston closed his eyes. I'll do everything to help. I promise, Tiana, my daughter. The word caught in his throat. I want you to be part of my life. I want to support you, pay for college, get you the best opportunities. Please let me make amends. Her eyes shone with tears. She felt torn between the loyalty to her mother's memory and the shock of discovering she truly was Winston's child. I need time, she whispered. Over the following days, tension bled through every corner of Tiana and Devin's small apartment. Devin was sullen, withdrawing into himself. The once easy sibling bond felt strained. Tiana pleaded one evening, "Talk to me." He shot her a look, bitterness etched on his face. "You get a billionaire father. I get no one." "Great." She frowned. "You've always had me. I'm not going anywhere," he snorted. "Sure, until Winston buys you some fancy condo and you move up in the world, you'll forget all about me." His words stung. Tiana's voice cracked. "How can you say that? You're my brother. Blood doesn't matter." Devin turned away. "Easy for you to say. You found your dad, your golden ticket. Meanwhile, I'm left behind." He slammed his door, leaving Tiana trembling with emotion. She sank onto the couch, tears flowing. She wanted to help Devin, but she felt powerless. In an agonized moment, she dialed Winston's number. He answered immediately. "Tiana." She swallowed. "My brother's struggling to... Do you have any resources to help find his biological father? Maybe we can track him down." Winston sounded relieved. She'd reached out. "Yes, I'll assign a private investigator right away." "I want to help." Tiana's heart clenched. "Thank you," he exhaled. "I also want to get to know you. Tiana, please let me be there for you in any way you need." She rubbed her temples. "I need time. My life is chaotic right now. I don't know how to handle all this." Winston's voice was gentle. "Of course. Take all the time you need. I'll be here waiting." Life had other plans. A few days later, Tiana was called into Clarice's office at the Waldorf Astoria. Anxiety twisted in her stomach as Clarice delivered the news. Tiana was fired. Why? Tiana croaked. "I've been punctual, courteous." Clarice folded her arms. "We've had complaints from certain guests who object to the drama you bring with you. There's talk of paparazzi rumors swirling about Winston Harrington. The Waldorf has chosen not to renew your contract. Please return your uniform and ID badge." Stunned, Tiana left the hotel in tears. She felt an ugly suspicion. Winston Harrington's father might be behind this. Or perhaps Winston's board members wanted to distance him from scandal. Either way, Tiana's livelihood was gone. That evening she received a phone call from an unknown number. The voice on the other end was cold and authoritative. "Ms. Harris, this is Marshall Harrington, Winston's father. We need to speak." Tiana's blood froze. This was the man who once threatened her mother. "I have nothing to say to you." She spat. He laughed, a chilling sound. "Oh, but you do. Let's meet tomorrow at my office in One World Trade Center. Noon. Don't be late." The line went dead. Fear coiled in Tiana's stomach. She sensed danger, but she needed answers about who was pulling the strings. The next day, Tiana arrived at the imposing One World Trade Center, stepping into a plush executive suite. Marshall Harrington was every bit as intimidating as she'd imagined. Tall, silver-haired, with sharp blue eyes that raked over her with disapproval. He offered no greeting, no handshake. "Sit," he ordered. Tiana refused. She stood, arms crossed, chin jutted. "I'm not a dog. What do you want?" Marshall sneered. "Spirited like your mother. That's what I hated about Patrice. She was too proud, too headstrong. She didn't know her place." Tiana's pulse hammered with fury. "Don't speak about my mother like that." He gave a dismissive wave. "Listen, girl, Winston's a good boy, but he's too sentimental. He thinks he owes you something now that a test says you're his daughter." Marshall's lip curled. "I built this empire from the ground up, investing in Winston's early businesses. I won't let it crumble because he's tangled up with a waitress who's probably after money. Anger burned through her. I'm not after money. I never asked for this. He's the one who approached me." Marshall barked a short, scornful laugh. "Spare me. Name your price and get lost. $10 million. 20 enough to keep you comfortable for life, then vanish. That's the offer." He tapped a file on his desk. "Your mother was cheap. Don't make the same mistake." Revulsion churned in Tiana's stomach. She wanted to lunge across the desk and slap him. Instead, she spat. "I don't want your filthy money." Marshall's eyes narrowed. "You'll regret that. My influence runs deep, girl. You think you lost your job at the Waldorf? By coincidence, I can make sure no high-end establishment ever hires you again. I can ruin your brother's chance at college, smear your mother's memory." Tiana's voice rose, trembling with rage. "Don't you dare threaten Devin or my mother." He stood, leaning forward menacingly. "Then stay out of Winston's life. Sign this." He shoved a legal document toward her, a non-disclosure agreement stating you'll never contact Winston again and never claim to be his daughter publicly. In exchange, I'll deposit a generous sum in your bank account. Tiana trembled, tears of anger blurring her vision. She grabbed the contract and tore it in half. "I won't sign. You can't buy me off." Marshall Harrington's gaze turned venomous. "Mark my words, girl. If you don't stay away from Winston, I will destroy you." He pointed to the door. "Get out!" Tiana stormed out, heart pounding with a mixture of fear and defiance. She had no idea how she'd fight a man this powerful, but she refused to betray her mother's memory. She refused to let Marshall Harrington bully her into silence. That evening, Tiana recounted the encounter to Winston, who arrived at her apartment after her frantic phone call. He showed up alone, wearing a simple sweater and jeans that somehow made him more human. She led him inside, meeting Devin's watchful gaze in the hallway. Devin nodded curtly, letting Winston pass, though the tension was palpable. Winston looked around, humility flickering in his eyes at the modest surroundings. Tiana told him everything about Marshall's threats, the NDA, and the job loss. Winston's face hardened. "I'll talk to him. This is unacceptable," she scoffed, tears burning. "What good will that do? He's your father, controlling your board, your empire. He'll never let you publicly acknowledge me." Winston gently took her hand. "Tiana, you are my daughter, and I don't care what my father thinks. He may have helped me early on, but Harrington Global is mine now. If he wants a war over this, he'll get one." Her eyes shone with tears. "I've been fighting all my life, Winston. I don't need to keep fighting you or him. I just want peace. I want a chance, for me and Devin, to live our lives without fear." Winston exhaled, turning to Devin. "I've hired a private investigator to look for your father. We've found some leads on a man named Bruce Rayner from Harlem who might be a candidate. We're trying to track him down." Devin shrugged coldly. "Thanks." Winston stepped closer to Tiana. "I will stand by you. Let me help with your bills, your rent. Let me pay for your education." She shook her head. "I won't be bought. I'm not signing anything, not making deals with your father or you. If you want to be my dad, prove it by standing up for me against him." Winston's jaw clenched. "I will." Devin folded his arms, glancing at Tiana. "What about me?" Winston turned. "I'll help you find your father. Devin, if you want college tuition, I'll gladly assist whether I'm your biological father or not. You're Patrice's son. "And that means you matter to me." Devin's expression softened slightly, but the anger and hurt lingered. "We'll see." Soon the tabloids exploded with new rumors. Winston Harrington's secret daughter photos of Tiana from the paparazzi outside the Waldorf circulated widely. The story soared across social media, fueling speculation, condemnation, and curiosity. People questioned if Tiana was a gold digger, or if Winston had fathered her out of wedlock and abandoned her amid the media circus. Tiana found herself hounded by reporters whenever she left her apartment. Devin was also stalked for a statement. Tiana had never felt so exposed, her personal life dissected by strangers. One chilly morning, she opened her door to find a small crowd of reporters on the sidewalk. Microphones thrust toward her. "Tiana Harris, are you Winston Harrington's daughter? Are you being paid off? Did you blackmail him?" A barrage of questions flew. Cameras flashed. She tried to shield her face, sprinting to the bus stop with heart pounding. That night, she broke down in her living room, tears streaking her cheeks. She texted Winston in desperation. "I can't live like this." He replied immediately, calling her pack a bag. "I'll send a car. You can stay at one of my properties until the reporters die down." She hesitated, not wanting to appear as though she was leeching off him. Yet she needed sanctuary for Devin's sake too. Reluctantly she agreed, and within an hour a sleek black SUV arrived, whisking them away to an upscale penthouse near Central Park, complete with tight security to ward off reporters. Tiana felt conflicted, stepping into that luxurious space. It was a haven from harassment, but it felt like stepping into Winston's gilded world. The plush carpets, modern decor, and panoramic views of the city sky made her uneasy. She recalled her mother's humble pride and worried she was betraying that memory. But with her job gone and her apartment address exposed, she saw no other option. The next day, Winston summoned the Harrington Global Board of Directors for an emergency meeting. Tiana discovered his plan only afterward, when Winston returned to the penthouse, face flushed with adrenaline. He sank into a leather chair. "I told them the truth that you're my daughter. I plan to publicly acknowledge you no matter the consequences." Tiana stared at him, her stomach flipping. "And what did they say?" He gave a grim smile. "They're worried about brand image, stock prices, the usual corporate nonsense. My father threatened to withdraw his financial backing, but I called his bluff. Harrington. Global is financially independent now. He has no controlling shares. I own 51%. The board can't oust me without a massive legal battle, despite everything." A small surge of pride fluttered in Tiana's chest. "You really stood up to him." Winston's expression wavered between triumph and sadness. "He's furious. But yes, I did. I told them, you're my daughter, and I'm done hiding. I'll hold a press conference in a few days." Tiana's eyes brimmed with tears. "Thank you," she whispered. He nodded, looking drained. "I'm sure my father is plotting something in retaliation, but I won't let him hurt you." As Winston prepared the public announcement, events took an unexpected turn. Karma came calling. An investigative journalist from the New York Times named Marsha Wainwright uncovered decades-old financial improprieties tied directly to Marshall Harrington. In a shocking exposé, she revealed how Marshall laundered money through shell companies, evaded taxes, and used intimidation to silence opponents. The article described him as a manipulative kingpin of corporate corruption. He'd threatened regulators, bribed local politicians, and even arranged for sabotage of small businesses that stood in his way. The revelations ignited a firestorm. Federal agents launched an investigation into Marshall Harrington's affairs. Suddenly, the man who once threatened Tiana with ruin was facing potential charges. Winston ironically was unscathed. There was no evidence linking him to the crimes. Instead, Winston came forward, publicly condemning his father's illegal actions, pledging cooperation with authorities. Tiana watched the downfall from the penthouse television in stunned silence. Marshall Harrington, once the unstoppable tyrant, was indicted, forced to resign from any board positions, and faced the potential of prison time. The next day, the media coverage pivoted. Winston Harrington distances himself from father's corruption billionaire. Son honest or just lucky? The board at Harrington Global offered Winston their support, relieved that the father's crimes hadn't sullied the company's future. Meanwhile, Tiana felt a twinge of satisfaction at the blow to Marshall's arrogance. Karma had indeed come full circle, punishing a man who had tried to bully and bribe her into oblivion. Despite the scandal surrounding Marshall, Winston proceeded with the press conference to introduce Tiana as his daughter. The event took place in Harrington Global's gleaming lobby cameras, lining every angle, microphones crowded on a podium. Tiana stood at Winston's side, a bundle of nerves. Winston addressed the press. "I stand before you today to acknowledge a truth long overdue. This is my daughter, Tiana Harris. Due to complicated circumstances in my youth, I was absent from her life. That was my failing, not hers. I wish to make amends and support her in every way possible. She is a bright, capable young woman who stands on her own 2 feet, and I'm proud of her." He paused, gazing at Tiana with genuine remorse and affection. Cameras flashed wildly. She lifted her chin and stepped to the mic, heart pounding. "My name is Tiana Harris," she said. "I've spent my life working hard, just like my mother did. I never asked for Winston's fortune, only for answers about my identity. It's taken courage to stand here today, but I believe in second chances. If it's possible to build a relationship with my father, I want to try. I also have a younger brother, Devin, who's currently seeking his own answers. I ask that you respect our privacy as we navigate this journey." Reporters hurled questions, but Winston's staff guided her away. Tiana exhaled with relief, stepping off the dais. She had made her voice heard. She felt the beginnings of empowerment, no longer a timid waitress overshadowed by secrets, but a woman claiming her rightful place. While Tiana's relationship with Winston took a cautious, hopeful stride forward, Devin was on his own quest. Winston's private investigator located Bruce Rayner in Newark, New Jersey. Bruce was a man in his early 50s, working maintenance in an apartment complex. Devin decided to meet him alone, riding the train to Newark on a brisk afternoon. He found Bruce scrubbing graffiti off a brick wall, heart hammering. Devin introduced himself. Bruce's face paled. "You're Patrice Harris's kid?" he asked quietly. Devin nodded. "Yeah, she died a few years ago." He glanced at Bruce with raw intensity. "I need to know if you're my father." Bruce sighed heavily, setting down the bucket of cleaning solution. He ran a hand over his thinning hair. We had a fling around the time she was dealing with a broken heart. She told me about Winston, how he walked away. We weren't serious, but she confided in me. I always wondered about the child. Why didn't she call me? I left contact info, but she never reached out. Emotions churned in Devin's eyes. "So you suspect I might be your son?" Bruce nodded, eyes wet. "I never knew for sure. By the time I tracked her down again, she'd moved. I figured maybe it wasn't mine. Didn't want to complicate her life. They exchanged contact details. Bruce agreed to a DNA test wanting closure. A week later, results confirmed it. Bruce Rayner was Devin's father. Devin's emotions were a tangled web relief at finally knowing anger, at lost years, curiosity about the father he never had. They arranged more meetings, forging a slow, cautious bond. Bruce wasn't wealthy or powerful, but he welcomed Devin with open arms. "I'm sorry I wasn't there," he told Devin. "If I'd known, I would have tried to do right by you." And in that sincerity, Devin found something Winston's money couldn't buy: a sense of belonging, a piece of his identity. He'd been missing weeks past, and the swirling storm of media attention began to subside. Tiana returned to Rosie's diner part-time. Martha, the owner, happily welcoming her back. She also took classes at a local community college, funded by Winston's scholarship, carefully negotiated, so that Tiana felt supported, not patronized. Devin split his time between Bruce in Newark and Tiana in Harlem, finishing his high school year with determination. Winston, true to his word, helped Devin financially with college applications and exam fees. No strings attached. Though Devin was initially wary, the billionaire's willingness to also help locate Bruce earned him a measure of respect. Marshall Harrington's trial loomed. Winston fully cooperated with investigators, while Tiana and Devin watched from the sidelines, quietly relieved that the man who once threatened their family might be held accountable. In one bittersweet twist, Tiana found a photograph in her mother's old Bible, an image of Patrice and Winston, arms linked on Howard's campus. On the back was scribbled, "Young love unstoppable." Tiana realized her mother must have truly loved Winston. Once. Perhaps in another life, they could have been a family without secrets or shame. Months later, Tiana stood at her mother's grave in Woodlawn Cemetery, a light breeze carrying the scent of spring. Winston stood beside her. Head bowed, Devin was there as well, along with Bruce, an unexpected but welcome presence. They were a patchwork family, tied together by Patrice's memory and a determination to move forward. Tiana knelt and placed fresh lilies at the headstone. "Mama," she whispered, "I wish you were here to see this." She glanced up at Winston. He gently laid a single white rose on the grave. "It's never too late to honor her," Winston said quietly. Devin nodded, voice thick. She deserved so much more than this world gave her. Tiana closed her eyes, letting tears slip free. She felt Winston's hand rest gently on her shoulder. Despite all the pain, there was a sense of healing in the air. The karmic wheel had turned, bringing truth and justice, punishing those who'd done wrong. Their mother's legacy lived on. Not in wealth or fame, but in the love and resilience her children carried. In that moment, Tiana felt the burden of secrets lift. They would never forget the struggles, the heartbreak. But they had a future now shaped by the lessons Patrice taught them. Keep going even when the world tries to stop you. 3 months later, Tiana walked into her first day of a culinary arts program at the Institute of Culinary Education in Manhattan. Cooking had always been her secret passion, nurtured by her mother's homey recipes. Winston had covered tuition. Tiana insisted on paying for her rent herself, still too proud to rely entirely on his fortune. Devin headed off to college orientation at Rutgers, close to Newark, forging a relationship with Bruce and staying connected to Tiana and Winston. The young man who once felt overshadowed was now forging his own bright path. Winston continued running Harrington Global, though he spent more time volunteering with cancer charities, quietly paying tribute to Patrice. He visited Tiana regularly, sometimes taking her to dinner, sometimes just walking through Central Park to talk. Their relationship was still new and fragile, but they were building trust one day at a time. And behind bars or Locked in grueling legal battles, Marshall Harrington faced the consequences of his own actions, abandoned by the empire he once dominated. No longer able to manipulate or threaten, he faded from the public eye, an emblem of what karma could do to the mighty when their deeds were foul. Tiana still worked occasionally at Rosie's diner, refusing to abandon the place that had fed her hopes when she had little else. She remained rooted in her values, reminding herself that no matter the money or prestige, true worth came from how one treated others. She saw Winston genuinely striving to make amends, not with grand gestures, but with consistent presence and earnest care. In a quiet moment, Tiana realized she was grateful for the unexpected twist of fate. She had found her father, complicated though he was, and discovered a piece of her mother's history that brought her closer to understanding the strong, loving woman who had sacrificed everything for her children. Through heartbreak and struggle, Tiana had emerged braver and more certain of who she was. She had faced the daunting might of powerful men, of illusions of secrets, and she had not flinched. A new dawn was rising over her life, bright with promise. Patrice's memory shone within Tiana's heart, guiding her forward. And in the hush of morning, Tiana could almost hear her mother's voice. "Keep going, baby girl. Keep going in the end." Tiana's question. "Sir, why is my mother's picture in your wallet unraveled? Secrets, lies, and buried truths that reshaped her life forever." She discovered a father in Winston, a man deeply flawed, but determined to make amends. Her brother Devin found a father of his own in Bruce, forging new bonds. And the once unstoppable Marshall Harrington faced a reckoning for his misdeeds. Through twists of fate and surprising acts of courage, Tiana refused to be silenced or bought. She embraced her rightful identity without abandoning the integrity her mother taught her to cherish. Thank you for joining us on this emotional journey of love, betrayal, and redemption. If this story moved you, inspired you, or made you reflect on the strength of family, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. We appreciate your support and look forward to bringing you more stories that touch the heart.